Thank you for joining us today. We have a special guest today, Hien Jin. And she has a powerful story, and I read her book. If you notice here, it's in English and in Korean. And Hien, you were a survivor. When I read your book, I thought, my gosh. And then the next chapter, she's going through something else and something else. And so we're going to touch on these things. As a Christian, you had to overcome, and your faith helped you overcome it. And you had a Protestant background, and a very famous missionary came to your country.
Right.
And
Dr. Underwood.
Dr. Underwood. And I wanted to ask you one thing before we start in on your story. Did you find that your story was like cleansing of all the bad things as you wrote it down, how God sort of healed and showed you?
Definitely.
Definitely.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start in, and I want you to talk about your grandfather and explain to the audience how your grandfather and grandmother, there's nothing like a praying grandmother. Everybody needs a praying grandmother.
Exactly.
And you had one. And so let's start in there. Tell us about your grandparents.
Well, my grandfather was pretty, I would say, elder of that church, and then they built that church about they celebrated their 100 years church, building the church at their own town. That was 2003. That's when they celebrated 100 year. And then he is very quiet, but I understand that he was an educator, and that he was the principal of the school my father attended. That's how my father became their elder daughter's husband. And that was my natural mother. And grandmother was always a prayerful lady, and she is a very righteous. That's what we would say. And in a home, if we would do anything wrong, she is the one to correct us before anybody. And then it always sinks in our heart. And I remember when we were trying to play some card, and she would look at, we were in some one room and hiding with the cousins and playing the card, and she looked in and she said, that is not so nice in Christian family. That's what she said. So we put it away as fast as we can, and then we never touched again. And anytime she come to visit us in our home, and 5 o'clock in the morning, she will wake us up. It's time to pray, morning prayer. And then we will say, oh no, not again. Her long, lengthy prayer is going to put me to sleep. So we would turn over and then on our head down and then listen to grandmother praying all the way, every little details. And then by the time when it comes to Amen, and we will go, Amen, and then turn back and then sleep. And this is the way she was. And she's, I guess all I know is she's always praying for me. And 1972, when my nephew came and joined us at the Charleston, Illinois, and that's the same year she passed away too. But his exact word was that, and when it comes to your part, is the longest prayer of a grandmother's part. And so it'll tell you that how she's concerned about me, and she's always praying for whole family. But I guess when it comes to my part, is I am the only one who had to have that hardship on her grandchildren's part. So she must have some extra
burden for you,
right?
And she was always interceding on the right hand of the Father for you,
right?
And
so she always did that.
Okay. Now, there's some other things I wanted to ask you about the occupation of Japan before you were born, you were occupied by the Japanese. And I didn't realize either I forgot my history or I didn't realize how much massacre of the Korean people during that occupation by Japan. Could you touch on that a little bit?
Well, these are we do study at the histories and stuff, but then only thing I can remember is that the pagoda that I thought there was a March, I think March 1st is the Christian men and women, mainly students, youth people rebelled, and then they rallied at the Japanese policy, and then they killed them, all of them. They don't. It's just like a massacre at the. It's 33 people died at that time, and then they captured one of a girl named Yu Gan-sun, and she was only 16, and they took her and then trying to make her tell them about the list of people who involved in that.
They wanted her to
so
give up all the
names, but then when they did that, she determined not to, and she refused to cooperate with them, and so they killed her. And then after that, they killed her, and they didn't even release her body to her family. So our missionary people finally had to go interfered and then brought the body back, and I heard them saying that she was mutilated on 6 different pieces of the body.
Oh.
So that's what's
she
written.
She went through a lot of torture.
Yes, that is just they cut the pieces of 6 pieces.
6 pieces.
Right. That's
her body.
Right. That's what we learned in history. So anyway, what they did by the time when we were in school, they were trying to wipe it up, all our identity of our traditional Korean background. So we were not allowed to speak
Japanese,
Korean, and then not learning in the Korean language either, because after they pulled out, that's the first time I knew that the Hangul was exist. So that's what give you idea.
So they took away your identity as a Korean,
and completely,
and they wanted to change your nationality to Japanese.
And then our name even changed it.
They changed your name.
Changed it to the my name was Heijin, right? But in them under their occupation, mine was a Keiko.
Keiko.
Which and Kunimoto Keiko, which our original name, and then our family name, and then our name has been all changed, and that's the way they were trying to do. But once they left, we got our own language back, and we got our own identity. And
when you went to school, the school was in Japanese,
right? That's what we have to do. And some of the girls who's used to speaking Korean at the home, when they come to school, it was quite a burden to them because they don't know how to study, read Japanese and stuff like that. So we had quite a
cultural change,
right?
Overnight, almost like.
And the culture shock.
And the shock on that. So you hadn't any freedom even to practice Christianity.
Oh no! And another thing in the church, I remember we had our church by then had a huge big steel iron-made bell, so they will ring the bell for anytime our service is going to be, and they rings and the rings like that, and they even took that away.
They took your bell away.
They
This call
Uh-huh.
to come to church.
right.
They
So
didn't want the people to come.
no, they used that for the. I understood that they used that for the military hardware
Okay.
because they
The
were
iron.
getting short on their supply and stuff. That's what I've been told.
Okay.
And then after then, our church joined and then collected more money probably and built another one. It's still hanging in there.
Still in it,
Uh-huh.
in Korea and,
Yes.
and on your church. Okay. Now, I noticed in the book you kept alluding to this mystery about your mother.
Yes.
Tell us about what your mother had to go through.
I guess they were okay. My mother was the first daughter of my grandmother and grandfather, and then they were very, I guess, strong Christian backgrounded people. And my mother was singing at the choir, and then my father was a choir director, first choir director there, and then they had 3 boys before me. And then I was the only daughter they had then, and between them, and they were kind of, a lot of people are envious about my mom and dad, how they are, because I heard that after the church, my father has a custom to take the boys to the park and then having a picnics and then that kind of things. So all the people are envious about that, and then my stepmother came into our life, which she was age 15, the hospital, the Severance Hospital, where the Dr. Underwood's wife, and they built, found her, she lost her mother there, and she was no way to go, so my grandmother brought her home.
Your stepmother.
Oh, my stepmother. So
Because
brought
your
her.
mother, now, for the audience listening in, your mother that had you was a very
Christian,
woman, but your father, in the custom of Korea, had a woman on the side.
That's
Was that
actually, my father was also Christian too.
Christian?
So actually, his time, that is not permitted to have another wife.
That's
but,
what I meant. He had this woman even though he was a Christian.
That woman was actually was not Christian at all. But my grandmother brought her when she was 15 because she lost her mother and then nowhere to go.
So your grandmother took care of her.
And then I guess after that she was married to my father's best friend, and then. But she was not happy with there, and then she came to my home, and I guess my mother, being such a nice person, she thought that she can be a help to my household, and then taking care of the boys. And then what she did, she kind of seduced my father, and then they were behind the, everybody is more like a secretly done that, and then so when my mother caught up with that, they had a huge big fight, and then had an accident, and then had a head injury on my mom, and then I guess somehow they moved away from there, and my mother was alone with the home, and then so then she found it where they were, and then when they went there to find them, it was another big argument, and then anyway, because of that, she sustained a head injury, and she was like amnesia, and but her amnesia did not start that right off. It's like time to time. Like some days she remembers who she was, but some days she don't, and so.
Then she took you out one day, and she left you.
She,
not knowing that you were her child, and incidents kept increasing because of the amnesia, right?
Yes.
And then somebody brought you home to your grandmother or to your father's.
That's first I understand that my mother was in the right now the home is all disasterized, and the brothers were old enough, so they went with the dad. But I was a little infant, so they let my mom kept in her home, and her mom she was returned to her home, and then she was taking care of me because I needed nurtured by her milk and stuff. So, and then sometimes she would take me out to the riverside to have, I guess, more like walking in the air, then getting a fresh air or whatever, and then she would take a baby with her. But when she left there, she knew she had the baby. But when she come back, she didn't have that baby anymore, and so everybody, whole household was upset, and they said that, "Where is your baby?" And then she would say, "What baby?" And then so it was just everybody rushed back to the riverside where she was walked, and then they found the baby, wrapped it in the blanket, and then set it on the sand pile, and then those things happened. So they had to take that baby away from her.
Yes.
So
then there was one other thing happened. You didn't have enough milk. And what did your brother do?
I think he must be, that time my brother must have had me for, I don't know how long it was, but the older brother, anywhere that he went to visit, there was the relatives who has the same age babies. So I would assume that he took me there for, I guess,
for her to nurse you.
Nurse you,
because mother was gone, and you were alone, and really your brother saved your life, intervened to take you to get what we call today a mother with milk to nurse. We used to call them.
Yeah, that I find out that not after I had the surgery, and when I find that when he told me about that, he's at the California, San Diego. So I asked him and said, "Then how did you manage to feed me? And then also, I'm living proof that I'm still here. And how did you take care of me with he was just only teenager himself, and he didn't say any more than that. But since then, I realized that he was the one who really saved my life as well. My grandmother's prayer.
Grandmother's prayer, yeah.
Right. Grandma, and also, Grandma had to take me to the. After then, Grandma gave it to the couples who do not have children, so let her adopt me, and then so I live with that adopted mother for age 5. They say so. Korean age 5, I can say somewhere in the 4, and but I do have a very fond memories of her because I felt that one time we were in the huge big bathhouse, and somehow I must have ran or something, fell backwards, and then somehow I was in her arm, and then when I was, I guess, screaming and crying probably, and then when I opened my eyes, I seen him on her chin, I guess the cheek, and that's tears coming down, and she was holding up and me in her face, and she was just crying, and I thought, oh my goodness, and that memory still stays with me.
So you're saying you had your mother, then you had a foster mother.
That's adopted mother, whatever you would say.
And then, then you wind up in your stepmother's home, but she didn't want you.
No, she even jealous of me being there, and she made my life pretty miserable.
Terrible. In fact, you passed out in school one day.
Yes.
Now, what happened?
Well, I think I was in the 1st grade or something like that. Our school was distant, and then as I was coming back from class, I must have passed out, and then that one of with my family being pretty the people well known, people, so the people recognizes me who I am. And one of the older girl student was recognized me. I was fainting there, and she picked me up and then carried her back and brought her to my grandma's home. And then my grandma noticed that I was passed out, and so she knew what to do. And the first thing she did is she made some kind of soup and the rice, and then spoon feed me. And then, but I don't know how many how many spoons that she fed it, and I was able to coming back to my normal again. And then she realized, oh my gosh, when did you have the last meal?
You had been fed by the stepmother.
Just
Just the pumpkin soup, I think it.
That
your
was
book said.
during the war.
During the war.
Okay, but
And food was scarce.
That was food was scary. But then when the first time when I fainted, it wasn't like that. She had a maid, and she had just a neglect.
She had everything.
She just neglected that I haven't fed. That's why it happened.
Okay.
And then during the war, that's another story.
Okay, now we have this invasion, and our good American troops come in because of Pearl Harbor, right, Roger?
No, it was a Korean conflict.
Korean conflicts. But we came in to help Korea.
Right.
And but before this all happens, I'm gonna get back to you. I kind of got ahead. I'm sorry. When you were 10 years old, I want the audience to know about Grandmother's Prayer and the Angel.
Yeah, that's first of all, we were in the little village, Christian village, and hiding. And then Father's, I guess, status was as a mayor of the town, and those people are the communist one. I guess they were against those riches or any people like that. So we were hiding in the little village, and then that's when the food was scarce. And then she started feeding me with that pumpkin, I guess, stew, whatever it is, and I hated the pumpkin. So I, spoiled like I am, I guess I just decided I'm not going to take this anymore. Went to home, Seoul's house. It's about 6 kilometers away from where we were hiding, and went into house, and empty house. And then first thing I did, I went into where they stored the rice, and there was hardly any rice. All I can scrape was a handful of rice. So I was washing that thing, and then broke twigs and stuff, and put there, and then start the rice. And then my brother that next to me was I guess teen himself, so he came and then said, and I looked at him, I said, what are you doing here? And he said, I worried about you, so I followed you. And so first thing I thought about, good, there's rice, I'm cooking rice. And then after that, before even it's done, all of a sudden I heard the gun sound in the house, where that later he left the bullet in the roof of the gate, in the first gate to between second gate. And so so we were stunned what's going on. And there's two men came as communists, and they were expected to have my father there, but they didn't find that except us two, so they took us away. And then took I guess that's when I becoming their prisoner of war, but I had no idea that I was a prisoner of war. And all I know is that they took it away, and they did some silly.
Now they forced you. Hanoi. Okay. They forced you to take rice to the front lines, and they put you in a boat, and they put you there, and then in the front.
There wasn't a boat; it was a bridge.
A bridge, and then
Floating bridge.
a floating bridge, and you went across and you fed them.
No, we did not.
The bag.
Bag
You were
is
to
a
take
still-
it up. Right.
to take it to their front line.
Front line.
Okay, so we were running, and then by that time, they were ready to pull out because our troop is right behind the tail. That's what I would say. So then that's when first time I ever knew what the shook sounds going, and then everybody was running.
Running. Okay.
Running back and forth, and then I thought, what on earth they're doing? And then all of a sudden, I heard the shook sounds going my ears, and then hit the tree, and then leaf falls down. Then I realized, oh my goodness, this is something that must be, you know, that's why they're running. So first time in my life, I jumped into the other side of that sand pile, and then I screamed at the Jesus, please help me.
You're calling out to the Lord.
Right, and then that's the first time I ever did that. And then after then, and then everybody was, and then that uniform, the communist soldier disappeared, and then we all came back to the normal, and they were still carrying their rice and going north side, so northeast side of a city, Seoul City. And then that's when I guess the L-19, that the airplane hit, and I guess it was the last hill that I recognized in that city. And then, of course, that's after I seen all that chaos was in the marketplaces and all this thing is done. And then when we were in the other side of hill, and then I knew I won't remember further than this way to go home, and I was start worrying about him. And then this uniformed communist soldier was stopping us, so I was just ready to explain why we were there. And then before I did, that L-19 airplane flew over, and then he took off, and then next thing I know, we heard some big explosion. So everybody scattered and hiding behind the rock, big rock, and then we were hiding there for I don't know how long it was, but then everybody's quiet down and they were gone. So gone to the north side. And then I was kind of so didn't know what's going on, and I was trying to looking for those people, and then my girlfriend was there with.
Okay, now you escape, you get to the river, and you're praying, and there's no chance for you to cross the river. And God sent an angel. But we're not going to tell that story. They're going to have to read that story. Our time's getting close. But who's this guy right here?
My husband, Roger.
And where did you meet Roger?
At this home.
In Korea.
Yes.
And he was stationed there, and he fell in love with you, of course, because he brought you home. And Roger, we didn't have a whole lot. There's so much in her book about these little ducks and your life and the Chinese custom, and it means
Korean
a
custom.
lot. Korean custom, I'm sorry. But there was something, you trained Joey to come to America, and then you come here and you served the service, and you retired here in Chicago, right?
Right.
And when you retired, after how many years?
20 years, 4 months, and 27 days.
20 years, 4 months, 27. You said a profound statement, and would you tell the audience, because you went through post-traumatic stress syndrome, you became a born-again Christian, Shia, Jian became a Christian, even though she was raised in a Christian family. But you came back, and you're still having struggles now. But give this last statement to somebody out there.
Yes, definitely. Yes, I was in Vietnam and fought through the 5 campaigns over there, and I thought really that was a rough part of my life. However, once I came back to the States and we started raising our children and found out drugs are everywhere. The drug war is something. Everybody's affected. I know every family in this USA has someone that's affected by the drug war. And it's creeping into our families, and we have to fight each other. And the only way that we can combat the drug system that's going on is to remain faithful in God and to pray that God can help us to have the strength to do the right things, to help people that are fighting the war with drugs. And that should be our prime concern right now, is our youth and our future of the USA. If we can get rid of this drug problem or minimize it, we're going to be one happy country.
Yes, I agree with you, Roger. Yeah. And you got a good helpmate here.
Oh, she's wonderful. After 52 years of marriage, she's a wonderful woman.
52 years, that is a long time. But if we got a minute left, I'd like to talk about the ducks. What does this mean here?
Is I guess they call this a wedding duck, and they traditional habit, and then in the book it would explain it. But one thing about this is like
put them in the air.
When they face each other, the family is happy, and they're talking to each other. However, whenever they turn themselves the other way and do not face each other, they're having problems in the family, and they need to pray a lot more and get next to God and solve their problems.
I think every family needs a duck in the house.
That's right. Everybody needs a pair of ducks.
Pair of ducks, yes. I like that.
This represents red one is as a she, and then blue one is a him.
Got the wrong duck.
And then what they do is I guess this is the way they usually keep it in, but the bride will, when they do have a disagreement or something, and she will twist this thing out back like that.
Okay.
That's what
I like that. You have a lot of traditions I like
yes.
in your culture and country of Korea, and I'd like to adopt that one. Okay, we thank you for tuning in, and come back and get her book and understand what this lady's went through, and this gentleman, how he served our country, and we'll see you again. Shalom.
יברכך אדוני וישמרך. יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונקה. יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום.
The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace.